Hi, good evening, everyone. Welcome to Boss versus Coach. First of all, thank you. And as I start my podcast, always. So, and thank you for appreciating Boss versus Coach, these podcasts, posts, book, and your love, your feedback, your appreciation matters a lot. Uh, I and Olivia wrote the book not to make it a bestseller, but to make it reach the right minds, the right hands who need it. We are happy that we are successful in doing that. The inspiration from the first one has made us to write the second one. Please don't sue us for this. So we are writing the second book. It's almost in near completion stage. With your blessings, if we get a good publisher, which we are in talks with few, we will put it for publication, and you will get to see the book very soon. This time, a very different approach. We are going into a storytelling mode, making it very interesting, emotional, dramatic, yet real. So don't expect it to be a Karan Johar movie, but yes, expect it to be equally interesting, catchy, and memorable. So do look out for it, and let's begin with the show. So silence. In our childhood days, in our college days, we get to hear these shoutings every now and then. Silence, please. Everyone go on silent. But do we realize the power of silence? Silence is something which is the best friend of a toddler. He gets annoyed on seeing the noise, but slowly and gradually, that noise, that surrounding sound, that disturbance and distraction becomes a part of our life. As we grow further, it becomes a part of our identity. And we get adopted to noise, to distractions, to disturbances, to people continuously avoiding silence so much that at one point of time we start fearing silence. Is it because silence makes us see the real us? Is it because we are afraid to be exposed to the truth, the real side of us? Leaders, they are very good in talking. They do meetings to plan meetings. They create good answers before a question is framed. And they avoid silence to keep things noisy and diluted. But is silence just mere absence of sound? No, it isn't. It is the presence of awareness. It is that sacred pause between reaction and reflection where understanding happens, emotions settle, and where wisdom speaks quietly. So tonight, uh, I am with Shanti and Olivia to unfold the magic of silence, to help us go close to it and, in a way, close to ourselves. So, welcome, Shanti. Welcome, Olivia. Shanti has been
Hi.
to our show before, while Olivia is a permanent resident now. I have given her a resident permit to be on Boss versus Coach. Shanti has been to our show before. Shanti is an experienced coach, leadership transformation professional, and has been running a very beautiful initiative of Grow with Satori. Shanti, I would like to quickly you to quickly introduce yourself and tell about your the wonderful initiative of Grow with Satori before we jump on to the podcast.
Sure, Mohit. I think training happened to me by chance, not by choice, but I'm so glad it happened. And as an extension of training, I think I'm able to live my passion and I keep putting it everywhere on LinkedIn, everywhere you will see developing and growing people is my passion. And I'm so glad that I've been able to make it my purpose through Grow with Satori, where we train, coach, mentor, support people on their growth journeys.
Great, Shanti, and thanks and welcome to the show. Olivia, why does silence makes one uncomfortable? Is it the fear of losing control, or is it the fear of listening to our own thoughts?
I think it's multiple things. Sorry, I'm just going to move Nancy. I think it's multiple things. I think there is something about the power in the person being the one who's talking. So if you're talking, everyone has to notice you. So there's sort of an ego piece there. I think people are scared of silence. When I'm talking to people training up new coaches, they'll often talk about, oh, I asked a question, then there was an awkward silence. I didn't know what to do, so I asked another question. It's like, it's not an awkward silence. Sometimes it's a productive silence. And you know when it's productive because someone sit there going, they're actually thinking. The question did its job. But rather than trusting that process, people feel like they have to jump in. And I've been on the receiving end of that with someone who was coaching me quite some time ago, who they'd asked me something quite profound. And in some circumstances, I'm very extrovert and I like to speak, to think. So I speak out my thoughts and change them as I go. But this kind of went really deep with me. So I was sitting there quite some time kind of working it through. And just when I thought, oh, I know what I want to say, they said, oh, you could think about it another way. And all of the thoughts went out of my mind. And that for me was a really brilliant sort of experience to show me just how it feels when someone shuts down your thinking by doing more talking. So I think it's a mixture of things. And in this busy world, you know, we've got our technology everywhere. I think people feel like they need the noise and they don't know what to do when they don't have it.
Shanti, silence, fear of silence, is it because we are afraid to see ourselves, we are afraid to hear the truth about ourselves, or we believe that talking more is the new form of leadership?
Um, Talking more is a weakness, not a form of leadership. I'll start there. Um, uh, Silence leaves no place for people to hide their vulnerabilities, their thoughts, their feelings, their emotions. It comes to bear. But as a leader, we've been trained to be in control, be in authority, be able to set boundaries and directions. But silence takes its own course, and that makes leaders feel uncomfortable, not in control, and hence that temptation to quickly fill in the gap uh, and pretend to give it direction.
So, Olivia, what is the difference between silence that builds trust and confidence vis-a-vis the one which creates tension?
Oh, hello. I think it depends what comes just before the silence as to what the silence holds. I think if you ask someone a great question, like you did just for me then a bit of silence is a chance for someone to gather their thoughts and to think. If what comes just before the silence is a reprimand or a challenge or something with negative energy, then what's happening inside me is I'm silent because I kind of don't think I can say the right thing, or I'm kind of shocked into silence. So yeah, I think you know we create a situation, and whether what comes next is silence or words, it will depend on what's being created as an environment beforehand.
So, having said so much about silence, and we all realize the importance of silence. Silence is not weakness, as Shanti said. It's your strength. Why is it, Shanti, that we see many leaders in the habit of talking more, responding first, and avoiding pause or silence? Is it that they don't want to be asked difficult questions, or is it that they don't want to be seen looking at their own selves?
The latter, for sure. Uh, as I said, silence leaves no room for leaders to hide behind words that sound powerful, actions and decisions that look bold and gritty. Silence actually allows that space for vulnerability, for fears to surface, for thoughts to emerge, for ideas to be brought to the forefront, for discussions to happen, which that which will make the leader feel I'm not in control, I'm not driving the decisions here. Somebody is taking their own, making their own choices, and that leaves the leader very uncomfortable. Um, yeah.
So is it that silence is the beginning of active listening? Shall we presume that silence is where you start listening, or is it that silence is where you hold back yourself, do an introspection, and then go all out with your thoughts?
Um, silence. Uh, so active listening has to happen throughout. In silence, not in silence. Um, but when you need more skill to listen to silence, you're observing energy shifts, you're observing, I'm talking about as a coach, right? You're observing facial expressions, size, um, or are they gazing, are they looking up and down, are they acting nervous, are they clearing the throat? That's data that you're gathering, and that's what you're listening to as a coach. Even as a leader, if you're giving feedback to your team member and you've just made a statement that this is what I've observed, it's important to see how the team member is reacting. And that is possible when you are listening throughout, when they're saying things, when they're not saying things, and how they are not saying things. So yes, they go hand in hand. Listening is has to happen end to end, and silences have to be listened to too.
Yeah.
Olivia, your thoughts?
I'm just reminded of one of my favourite stories, and you may remember this one, Mohit, about very senior leader. He's like the charismatic person. He has all of the answers. Everyone wants to know his thoughts on everything. And he sits in a meeting and has his pad of paper in front of him and writes the name of the meeting. And at the top right hand corner writes wait, WAIT. And every now and again during the meeting, he'd underline it. The meeting would continue. Turn the page, page 2, WAIT, wait. Every now and again, he'd underline it. And afterwards, someone says to him, so I wasn't reading your notes, but I couldn't help noticing you were writing wait. What are you waiting for? What's that about? He said, oh, well, the problem is, as a senior leader who everyone thinks has all the answers, it's very easy for me to fall into that trap and do all the talking. But as a senior leader, my job is actually to hear other perspectives, to understand what's going on, to notice who's influencing who. So it doesn't just say wait, it says, why am I talking? And every time I catch myself talking, I underline it. And I love that story. It's such a beautiful piece of understanding your role. It's not to be the one at the front. A leader is often the one at the back or at the side, holding the team together.
So, Shanti, Olivia, I'm sure you've been calling that we did a podcast on the mirror, the importance of mirror. Is silence a mirror for us? Is silence a mirror for someone to see and mindfulness?
Yes, I'll answer it in two ways. Um, One, if I have to become more aware of myself, what's happening within me, what's happening around me, I have to be silent, both internally and externally, to be able to experience what's happening around. In the same way, when I'm working with my team member, working with my coachee, I think I need to give that space for silence to breathe so that they become more aware of them. So that's what showing the mirror is. This is the reality, your reality in the moment right now, my reality in the moment right now. And yeah, to answer your question, yes, mirror both ways, for the clients, for your team members, and for yourself.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
You might have noticed I speak in stories, but if you think of a still water, you can see your reflection in still water. As soon as it gets choppy or noisy, or you start to splash about, you can't see what's going on. It's just a mess and a noisy image. So yeah, absolutely. Sometimes we do just have to still slow down to be able to see that reflection of ourselves and know what's going on inside, either for ourselves or, as Shanti says, for others, either giving them the gift of a bit of peace to reflect for themselves, or reflecting back to them what we notice about what's happening to them. Yeah, absolutely. But you can't do that when you're being animated and big.
So that brings us close to the ending. And before we go silent, I would like to quickly ask Olivia and Shanti about some useful tips or some exercise or some practical advice that you can share to the leaders as well as the younger generation outside on how can they practice silence and how can they bring it to their advantage.
You can start. Um, I've been practicing a lot of concepts and practices uh, from the Indic wisdom. And there is one practice called as Antar Mauna, which is inner silence. Um, every morning at 5:30, there is a group of us who join onto a Zoom call to practice silence. What we do is first we start with breath. We listen to start listening to sounds around. It could be the fan, it could be your heartbeat. Slowly you'll start hearing birds if there is traffic outside, or vehicles, some honking. um, Slowly, when you come back to focusing on your breath, all of the other sounds just vanish away, till the person who's leading the meeting will say, now bring back your attention to your environment. Like, oh god, everything was going, the clicking of the talk and clock and everything was already there, but you were not noticing. That makes me realize that in a day when we are not observing silence, we are so busy and focused on just one or two things we are doing, and there's so much happening in our environment, uh, that we are not noticing at all. That is one practice that I really follow very, very religiously. Um, the second practice that really helps me, I don't do the weight, but I loved the acronym. But it's, Mel Robbins, 5 4 3 2 1, before I
Yeah.
say anything. That really works for me, where, pause. Do you really have to say or cut? Sometimes I also pretend that it's okay, even if whatever is being said is not right, I don't agree. But it really doesn't matter for me to share an agreement or disagreement. I just let there be silence and let them have their way. It's not going to affect me in any way. So these are some things that enable me to practice silence.
I
Olivia.
love the idea of going onto a Zoom call to not talk to each other. I think that is absolutely beautiful. What a fantastic ritual. Um, I always think, the first thing that we can do for ourselves if we want to build ourselves for change is to notice our current pattern. So if you are someone who can't bear silence, what does that mean? What's going on? So just noticing, is it that you're feeling up here that maybe they think I'm stupid and I need to say something quickly? Is it that you're feeling here, I feel like I won't be cared about if I'm not talking? Or is it right in your gut where you think this is really uncomfortable and I don't know why? Where are you feeling it? What's going on in your head that means that you can't just sit and let a moment go by where there isn't a noise? And it's a really interesting exercise just to notice first. And then, I'm a great believer in incremental change. So what if once you've noticed what happens, When does it happen? Is it in busy meetings where everyone else is doing lots of talking, you feel like maybe you're going to miss out? What happens if just before you're going to talk, you gather yourself and find some technique that kind of works for you? If you're on a one-to-one and you're always wanting to sort of finish the other person's sentence and then say something else, what if you just let them finish? And before asking the next question, say it in your head first. So there's lots of ways just to slow ourselves down. And as we slow ourselves down, then the silences don't feel quite so bad because we're not all rushing. And the other thing is to bring it to other people's attention, I guess. If you are a leader and you're in a meeting where everybody is kind of finishing everyone's sentences and no one ever gives a breath, so, okay, I'd like everybody to raise their hand before they join in. Or whatever. There's so many things you could do, but noticing what's happening, I think, is so important first.
Beautiful.
Very beautiful. So I think one tip I would also like to share, that one must start listening to you both more often, because in last 20 minutes at least I have observed silence. So I think that's another thing which can be of good use to you, and that will give you a lot of learning and wisdom also. So it's free knowledge. Go grab it. On that note, thank you, Olivia. Thank you, Shanti. And silence is power. Silence is mirror. Silence is wisdom. Start exploring. Start exploiting. Start using this power which is there in your hand. Don't feel afraid to look for the real inside, because that's where the world would like you to shine. On that note, thank you very much. Keep loving Boss versus Coach, and do reach out to Olivia and Shanti for any coaching guidance. Thank you. Bye bye. Take care.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye bye.